Okay, if everyone's ready, I'll go ahead and call to order the Tuesday, April 11th Common Council meeting. The time is 7 p.m. We'll have Joanne, our city clerk, do the roll call.
Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Tom Smith,
Here.
Dan Stevens,
Present.
Stephen Knott,
Present.
Leanne Stokes. Here. Larry Jurassic,
Present.
Diane Wolf. Here.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. City council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, obscene remarks, or threats of violence. Sufficient warnings may be given by the sergeant at arms or the chair at any time during the remarks. And in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum as set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4 is public input. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the Common Council this evening? If so, come forward where Joanne is standing there. State your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Is that good right there?
I think so.
My name is Ryan Morris. I live at 618 Gale Avenue in Onalaska. I'm here today because I have 5 animals and we've requested a waiver of the 4 animal limit because we own 5 animals. And well, I didn't realize that we were in any kind of violation until we went to license our animals, and they said that you can only have 4. So we've owned the animal, the 5th animal for 6 months, prior to me going to license it. So we've already become like attached to it. I have 2 kids that if I got rid of any one of the animals, they'd be absolutely crushed. So it's 4 dogs and 1 cat. I guess the reason I want to speak up right now is because one of my neighbors had an issue with us having the 5 animals. They said that my dogs bark at all hours of the day and night, and that my dogs poop in their yard. It's just simply not possible. I have a large fenced in backyard. There's no way that they get out and poop in their yard. Maybe it's happened once, but it's absolutely not on a more than like 1 occasion type thing. And then as far as the barking goes, we lead normal lives. My wife goes to bed at 9 o'clock every night and she's sleeping. I can't imagine how she would be able to sleep through barking dogs in our house, but our neighbors wouldn't be able to sleep through barking dogs. So I can assure you that as soon as our dogs bark, we put a stop to it. If they're outside and they bark, we bring them in immediately because we don't want to be those people. So I just, just felt like after hearing what my neighbor had to say about us, I just wanted to give a little bit from my perspective, and hopefully, we can look at that. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Second call for anyone wishing to address the Common Council. Third and final call for anyone wishing to address the Common Council this evening. Okay, public input is now closed. I just want to mention we have a lot of visitors in the house, and you may see a lot of us wearing t-shirts. We did launch our new rebranding for the city today at an event where we featured these t-shirts. Part of the idea behind our brand is that it's vibrant and colorful and active, just like our community is. So I really want to thank, first of all, the La Crosse County for helping us fund the rebranding of the Omni Center, and then also inspired us to continue on and be able to do the rebranding for the city of Onalaska. We worked with Meter for this project, and they were great partners and great leaders walking us through a rebranding process that none of us were familiar with. So thank you for that. Item 5 is a public hearing to consider adoption of a final resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of Lauderdale Place cul-de-sac located in Section 8, Township 16, Range 7 West of the City of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. The actual resolution will be addressed under the Plan Commission non-consent agenda item 12. But at this time, I'll open it up if anyone would like to speak in favor of this final resolution to vacate. If so, come up, state your name and address at the podium. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this resolution to vacate. Okay, that portion of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against the final resolution to vacate this portion of Lauderdale Place. Second call. Third and final call, if anyone would like to come up and address the council on this item. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. And we will, do we have to talk about it, or are we just going to go to the? Okay, the public hearing is now closed, and this will be addressed in the agenda as described under non-consent item number 12. Item 6, report from the mayor. I started out with the most important thing, a proclamation in recognition of the retirement of Fire Chief Troy Goody, and I'll just read it. Whereas Onalaska Fire Chief Troy Goody has announced his retirement after 34 years with the City of Onalaska, his last work day will be May 2nd, 2023. Whereas Chief began his career as a volunteer firefighter in 1989 and was hired as the first full-time firefighter in 1993. Over the years, he has worn many hats, but served for 17 years as the assistant fire chief and was promoted to fire chief in 2020. Whereas since Chief was hired full-time, the department has grown to 20 full-time firefighters and over a dozen part-time firefighters. Whereas Chief's accomplishments include partnering with Wisconsin Technical College to create the first local high school fire and EMS academy, which received over $200,000 in grants to support the program, and reaching an agreement to provide fire protection service for the entire town of Onalaska. Whereas keeping our children, family, and seniors safe from fire is a challenging but rewarding responsibility. Now, therefore, as mayor of the City of Onalaska, I do hereby proclaim as follows. The City of Onalaska hereby congratulates Chief on his retirement and thanks him for his dedication to the safety of the citizens of Onalaska for the past 34 years. Please join me in congratulating him. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The mayor said you can say 2 words. She says I can talk sometimes, but no, I just want to thank everybody. It's been such an honor serving the City of Onalaska for the past 34 years and protecting our community. I hope I've made my mark here and brought this to a level that hopefully it sustains into the future. I think we shall be very proud of the professional men and women that are on our fire department that are serving every day, 24 hours a day, to keep us safe and protect us. Thank you very much. Like I said, it's been an honor and a privilege serving for the City of Onalaska.
Oh.
And thank you, sir. Item B, recognition of First District Alderperson Tom Smith. Tom has been serving as First District Alderperson since April of 2019, and I just want to take a moment to thank him for his service as Alderperson. Did you want to say something?
I'll save my comments to the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Chief can come up again. We have recognition of full-time firefighter EMT Zach Zellendeck on completing his 1 year of probation. Big night for the fire department tonight.
Yes, this will be my last one that I get to introduce as fire chief. So I'm honored to to recognize Zach Zollendick. He is was a three-year part-time firefighter EMT for the Alaska Fire Department before he was appointed to full-time, which is just coming off his probation. He also worked for Gunderson in the ER, Sparta Ambulance, and is currently employed by Winona Ambulance. Zach is a master plumber and continues to help out his family's plumbing business in Winona. When he is not working, he enjoys golfing, hunting, and snowboarding. In attendance tonight is his father, Steve, and mother, Betty. Also his stepfather, Carl, and Zach's girlfriend, Morgan, will be doing the badge pinning this evening.
Congratulations to Zach and thank you for his family for your support. Item D is very important, but not probably as exciting. Our annual Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1972, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values and enhance the economic vitality of business areas and beautify our community. And whereas the city of Onalaska has been recognized as the Tree City USA for the 23rd consecutive year by the National Arbor Day Foundation in honor of its commitment to effective urban forest management. Now, therefore, I, Kim Smith, the mayor of the city of Onalaska, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the city of Onalaska, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And then item E, the Mississippi Valley Conservancy Award. It was my pleasure as mayor to attend the annual meeting of the Mississippi Valley Conservancy and accept this award on behalf of the city of Onalaska. Dan Wick has the award. If you want to start coming up this way, Dan. The award, they have awarded us as the Conservation Partner of the Year for the MVC. And to me, this is really a big deal. And I'm really thankful for this. It's something that's important to me personally, preserving our bluffland and our waterways for future generations. And then also as the mayor, I think it's a great example of how by working together with partners who have a similar vision and goals for what the future might look like, we can work together and we can accomplish a lot more. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wick.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the council for supporting this, giving us the tools to try to acquire these lands and then have these partnerships. So really thanks to you to be able to do this, and the families and the generations future to come will have a lot of bluff lands protected by the work that you guys have done. So thank you.
Okay, next, we'll continue with the recommendations for approval and or possible action from the following committees, commissions, boards, and officials. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Are there any items the councilors would like removed from the consent agenda? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Tom Smith to approve the consent agenda. I don't think there's any discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, the consent agenda is passed. Under non-consent agenda, item 8, a recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. There were none, which brings us to item 9, the Finance Committee. Alder Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item 9A vouchers, the following is a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated March 14th, 2023, and the total is $4,126,083.02. I move that we approve that.
Second.
Okay, motion was made to approve by Alder Stevens. It's been seconded by Alder Smith. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. The vouchers are passed. Item 10, personnel. Alder Stevens, please continue.
Under item 10A, and these were recently added on the amended agenda, approval to hire up to 2 sponsored police officers to attend the June 2023 Law Enforcement Academy in anticipation of multiple officer retirements at the end of 2023. This was not part of the finance committee, but I will make a motion to approve it and then refer it to staff for explanation if it gets seconded.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens. It's been seconded by Leanne Stokes to approve to hire the 2 police officers as described. Let's turn it over to Chief for a description of this item.
Good evening. Thank you. I handed out a kind of a visual timeline for all of you this evening. I thought it would be very helpful for you to see just how lengthy of a process that it is going through the hiring process of a police officer. It was lengthy in the past and now it has greatly increased by about 4.5 months because of the day and age we live in. We have to sponsor pretty much all of our candidates now to the Law Enforcement Academy. It used to be just the opposite. All of our applicants would already be certified and so we could start them on the road in the training, but now we have to start them in the academy, like I said, which adds 4.5 months. So I'm here tonight to propose or request, I should say, to kind of go outside of the traditional norm of the past because of the day and age we live in now. The last academy in this area is June 5th at Western Tech College. And so if we miss that deadline of hiring and sponsoring 2 candidates, the next recruit academy is not until February. So you can take this chart and essentially move it out an entire year. So those candidates would not be essentially ready to hit the road till the end of 2024. With our anticipated multiple retirements at the end of this year, I feel like it would put a hardship on our department trying to go with that many vacancies for that long of the year. So my request is that we're going to have more than probably 2 vacancies, but I'm requesting 2 that we hire by June so we can get them to the academy. They'll graduate in October and then they'll hit the road in training and then be able to go out on their own in next February if everything goes well. But probably the main question on your mind is how do we afford this? And so my plan is to work with Director Steger, looking at, I feel fairly confident that we will have enough vacated wages. We do have 1 officer now that has been on military leave and is not anticipated to return until late summer. So that's probably almost 3/4 of a year of vacated wages there, along with our record specialist, part-time record specialist. Would probably have about 4 months of vacated wages there. So I think we'll have plenty, along with the fact that officers attending the recruit school are paid at 75% of the starting wage of a regular full-time officer. So it's not a 1-to-1. There's actually some gap there, which would help. Any questions?
I guess I can just add on and then we'll open up to questions. And just, there was some discussion going on around this and what to do. And in talking with the chief, we were already amending the agenda anyways, and I just felt a bit of urgency that we not let this sit for another month to try to decide what to do, that it'd be better to kind of take it head on and proactively make a decision that's in the best interest of our community. So I support this as well. Okay, counselors, questions? Larry Jurassic?
Yeah, Chief, everybody that goes to the academy, are they locked into that community, or is there possibility of obtaining some of the people that are in the academy other than the two that we're gonna be getting?
It used to be that we could try to pick up somebody from the academy, but now pretty much all the people in the academy are hired by other agencies and are being sponsored just like we're trying to do. So there's just no candidates to even try to recruit from those academies.
Okay, Alder Not?
Yes, for Sabrina, do the dollar figures work out towards at least a wash?
We haven't had much time to run the full numbers, but likely it will be close. The other thing to keep in mind is the new officers that will be hired at a lower rate than what we currently have, the officers that will be retiring. We'll also, the other caveat that we haven't really discussed is likely we'll have to pay out some sick leave for those individuals who do retire. So it's we haven't crunched the numbers fully. This just got changed. But it'll likely, I don't know that it'll be a full wash, but it'll be close, in my opinion.
Like so many other items that have come before us like this before, I'd personally be more comfortable seeing the numbers first. Certainly willing to come into a special common council to do that in a week or 10 days.
I will say though, Stephen, and someone from staff can back me up on this, is that, a lot of it is projections. We don't know we won't have the exact retirement date of the police officers until it gets closer. Like, we can't wait until the police officer officially marks their retirement to begin the recruitment process. As you can see, it's very long.
No, but we can go off of educated guess. I mean, some assumptions based on some facts would come into order. Right now, we're really at just wild guess because we really haven't looked even that far yet. If this was last year, it would be a whole different conversation. But this year, we've got some serious budget concerns that we have to worry about. And I'm sure we're going to have them again next year too.
Okay, let's have Amanda, and then to Diane, I'll be next.
I was just going to offer that if there are specific questions that the Common Council would like answered, we could take note of those tonight, and we could put this on the agenda for reorg next week and attempt to answer them then. But I do think there is a certain amount of urgency, and so I would like this to not necessarily wait till May.
Okay, Diane, you are next, and then Tom, I'm going to ask you.
Amanda took the words out of my mouth. I was going to lead with that too, because I totally agree with Alder Knott's concerns. This is the first, at least many of us, I think, have seen this, and but I understand what Mayor Kim is also talking about, that, we need to start moving, but 1 week is not going to make a difference, in my opinion. I think we all would like to probably get our hands around this a little bit more, a little firmer. So it would give staff a little bit more of a chance to maybe at least rough draft something. Obviously, I don't think we're going to be able to hold anyone's feet to the fire with exact numbers, but at least have a more scope of what it's going to involve. At least that, I support it in theory, but I would feel a lot more comfortable if I had a little bit of an idea of kind of particulars. Just a few questions I had. Just wondering if we have an idea of how many vacancies do we possibly anticipate? What is the cost to sponsor? I don't know why it wasn't on F&P last week. Yeah, so those are my questions.
We'll let Chief answer those.
Thank you.
Sure. Your first one was how much does it cost to sponsor? Is that?
Yeah, yes.
So what we do is if we hire them before the academy, the state will reimburse the academy for the tuition. So we are not responsible for tuition. We essentially are responsible for wages and benefits.
Okay. And how many vacancies do we anticipate?
Right now, I have 3 with high confidence and a 4th probably in the first or second quarter of next year with fairly high confidence.
Okay. And I was just curious for this to pop up on the day before council. I just didn't know why it might not have been on F&P last week. Just so we could have more time to talk about it, so we can make more of a decision come this week is the only reason why I ask.
Yeah, and not to make excuses, I guess just with everything that we're going through with the processes and other things, daily activities, it was something that came up late last week, was it, I think?
During the PFC meeting.
Okay.
Because we've been doing recruitment and eligibility lists for multiple positions within police and fire. And the more we were talking about it, the more we were realizing that this deadline was just, it's hard. I mean, that's why Chief made this, because it's hard. You know, you're having a conversation about something, and then once you start putting it into time, you can start to feel the urgency a little bit differently. And so then once it got to that point, then I said, we should just take it to council and have the conversation. And like Amanda said, like waiting a week doesn't matter. We're opening, end of the day, the council can decide not to do it. I mean, and then what that's going to mean is we're just on a different timeline. I mean, we're just bringing forward the information as soon as we know that it feels urgent.
And thank you. And I think this helps us all to kind of see the, you know, the lengthy process. So thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Okay, that was your questions, Diane?
Yes.
Okay, Tom, did you have any questions?
I support it. I think we really need to, I just looked at when I started on this council 4 years ago and how we were way behind and we were really struggling, just getting caught up again. And it took us a long time to get to where we were and with the retirement. So I really do support the urgency of getting those filled before the retirements. But I think since we have another week, if we could maybe get a little bit more numbers around it, I think since we do have that luxury of I won't be here, but at least the next meeting that they'll have a little bit more information. I agree with you too, that it'd be nice just because it's so quick, just to make sure that we're comfortable with some preliminary numbers. As long as it's only a week, I think it makes sense to put together and then come back next week and hopefully proceed. That's my thought.
Thank you. Leanne?
Yes, I agree. I think that I can see the urgency. I mean, especially if you've gotten 3 for sure and 4th one within the first 2 quarters and you're asking for 2, so you're still going to be down. And so I also agree. I think we should, you know, take the week and see what we can come together and get some rough numbers so that everyone feels more comfortable about it. But I agree with that.
Okay, Alder Stevens?
So, maintaining continuity in public service is, I think, critical. But with that said, I guess I would have a concern on what, I'd want to know what the maximum of our exposure would be. So if we're basically hiring people and we're going to start paying them with wages and benefits, and we're projecting retirements. So, I mean, it's a good solution to start the process now, but I mean, we can't force people to retire. I mean, they're saying that, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it, but there could be life changes. And what happens if we get to the point where somebody does not want to leave and now we've got like new employees that we're still paying? Like, I guess I would want to know, what the plan is. Are we just going to pay for it and we'll have temporarily more police officers? Are we going to try to really encourage the soon-to-be retirees to hurry up and get out? Or are the new cadets or new officers, are they going to be laid off, or are we going to do something else? So I think that we as council, well, I'm going to only speak for myself. I would like to know what is what is our risk? What's our liability in terms financially that we're going to have to do? That said, I think it's good to plan ahead, and this is the right conversation. But next week, if we could have that, if that could be added to the discussion, I would appreciate it.
Okay. So would you like to amend or withdraw your motion? Alder Stevens made the motion. Leanne Stokes seconded.
So
Motion was
I
to
guess I would
approve.
just refer it to next. I think we have to recant the motion and then I'll refer it, right?
That's what I.
So I will.
There's a couple of ways to do it.
I will rescind my motion,
I will also rescind my second.
Okay,
and I will make a motion to refer this item to the reorganization meeting next week.
I will second that.
okay. The motion has been rescinded and restated. Refer to the reorganization meeting. Motion by Dan Stevens, second by Leanne Stokes. Is there any further discussion? Alder Stevens or what's going on here? Alder Not. Go ahead, Alder Not.
Just very briefly. So again, just to make clear, in concept, I do fully support this. This here is the challenge of every police department in the country on why they always are running short on personnel. But at the same time, if we do go down this path, I mean, we've talked about some of the pitfalls that might be out there. But another one we haven't thought of, or at least haven't mentioned here yet anyway, I guess, is that this would be setting a new precedent most likely for how we do law enforcement hiring in the future, I suspect too. So just a lot of things to consider before we meet next week.
Thank you. Alder Jurassic?
Yeah, last Saturday I had the privilege of a ride along with Officer Cooper. And this was my third one. Every time it's been very professional. I've never had any thought that they need more training in any capacity at all. I just want to say that it must be from the leadership that they have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the motion we have on the floor is to refer this item to the reorg meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief, for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Item B is a discussion regarding the fire chief hiring process and possible interim. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Alder Steve. Item B, Alder Stevens.
First, I was gonna say if Larry did 3 ride-alongs, Steve should just hire Larry. He's trained already.
Oh, my gosh.
Under item 10B is a discussion regarding fire chief hiring process and the possible interim appointment. This is a discussion, so I don't think we need a motion.
Nope, I think we can refer to.
Move to
Amy.
discuss.
I move that we discuss.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Wolf to have a discussion about this. Amy, are you prepared to talk about this?
No.
It'd be a short discussion.
I do believe it's customary in when we have an announcement of a retirement of a department head to a lengthy vacancy. Again, this is going to be a lengthy recruitment process. I think the earliest that we could get somebody on board would probably be late summer, early fall. So again, it is an extensive time period without a chief and would be suggested to hire an interim in the meantime at the budgeted wage range that is currently out there.
Amanda Jackson?
So just to follow up with that, the PFC oversees the hiring of the fire chief in that process, but council essentially controls the wages of the fire chief. And so because of the fact that this is a retirement, so the last day worked is going to be in May, but we'll continue to pay out benefit time through an extended period, it becomes somewhat of a budget question as to the timing of when we would have an interim fire chief appointment. And so that is why that is on the discussion for today.
So what is it that you're asking? You're asking, we're looking
We're
for budget
asking-
for,
We're asking for guidance on, would you like to appoint an interim fire chief? That's kind of question number one, and fund that. And if so, what time period would you like that to start? Would you like it to start the day that we lose our current fire chief? Would you like it to start the day that we are no longer paying benefit time? Would you like it to, when would you like that to start?
is Assistant Chief Noren amenable to being the interim chief? Has this been discussed?
I was not able to get in touch with him prior to tonight's meeting. I think in terms of whether or not the council is agreeable to funding the position and that piece, I think we could take back to the Police and Fire Commission as far as the individual. But again, looking for if the council will is to fund the interim.
How much are we looking at to fund this?
Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know that the position is currently budgeted up to step 4.
Okay, Alder Wolf, and then we'll go to Alder Not.
Thank you, Your Honor. So having not discussed this with anyone previously, I feel like I'm going on a little bit of a limb here, but I'm just going for it. I know we've had the situation at least twice in the past where someone has gone ahead and where there's been a department head where they have been not in their post for a extended period of time, and someone has stepped up, like maybe it was like a deputy or something, has stepped up to that post. And the last two examples that we did, because we wanted to get away from the stipends, because they seem to be political and a whole host of other things, is to put someone at step one of the position that they are taking. That's what we've done that twice now, just in the recent year, maybe. I don't know if this body wants to consider that, but I feel that we kind of set a precedent. I don't know when it comes to the police and fire. I don't know if that makes it any different or not, but I just always think that's fair, because if they're doing the job, I think they should get the pay. And I feel like we've set that precedent with two positions. At least that's my initial input, my thinking, without talking with HR before and without hearing the rest of you. But I just want to put that out there, that we've already kind of established a precedent. But
Okay, let's hear from our attorney here. She's ours.
Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a slightly unique situation. That is correct, our president, in the sense that I believe the most logical candidate is already making above the first step of that pay grade.
Okay, let's hear from Sabrina first. It might be helpful to hear from staff.
They are not above, but they are about exactly added. So just barely below.
Is that the January or July wage? Because it'll, okay.
Okay, and I think Aldernott was next.
Yeah, so there are a couple questions that Amanda had raised earlier. So I personally support having an interim. So long as we can afford it. I assume we probably can due to a retirement. So, the other piece was, when would the interim take charge? And my own personal view on this, on all positions of authority, is that the person who currently holds that position is held responsible and accountable until the day they leave. So I'd like to see the changeover take place if we decide to pursue an interim, basically when Chief Goody leaves, because until then, he's Chief Goody.
So just to clarify, would that be his last day working or when we stop paying him?
Last day working on the job when he's having to make decisions.
Okay, let's hear from Leanne.
Yes, I agree with Stephen. I think we absolutely should have the interim position filled. And I would assume that you're going to be talking to your deputy chief, Norm. And I also agree that it needs to be when our chief leaves and not when he's done with the benefits. I think that's too important of a position not to have that continuity. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Stevens, and then we'll go to Larry Jurassic and then Tom Smith, and then we'll try to wrap it up.
Just to reiterate the sentiment, Chief Goody is the chief until his watch is done, not when we stop paying him. And that moment he hands it over to the interim chief, then we need continuity. Otherwise, we're going to have nobody at the helm due to a payroll issue, and that doesn't seem like good governance. So I also think that it is important that we have an interim in place.
Steve and I have been to too many change of commands that when that flag passes to the next person, that's when it takes over. So that's what I support.
All right, Alder Smith.
Yeah, I agree, concur that as soon as chief's gone, then the interim takes over, sets accountability. Somebody's got to be in charge. So as soon as Troy's done, the interim takes over. Makes sense.
Okay, so I'm hearing agreement that we should have an interim and that they should start on the day after the last work day. Amanda, what else does staff need?
I guess we would like some guidance on the budget. So we will have vacated wages. As Amy said, we do anticipate that it will take a couple months to get through the recruitment process, longer than what time we will be paying out benefit leave. And so there should be several weeks, if not months, of vacated wages, which, if you were agreeable to going up one step from the current step or something, we need some guidance on the budget side as to if that would be amenable to council or the interim.
Amy, do you have those handouts for the wage scale, the steps in the scale? No, okay. Sabrina?
I did misspeak. I apologize. I was looking at, their rate as of the, assistant chief's rate as of 1/1 plus his 2 steps in the full year of 2023. But he would be moved up if he passed his, performance review. So then it would be slightly lower for if the position went to assistant chief to go to step 1. So you'd almost have to go to step 2, in my opinion. And in regards to the budget for this, we will have some vacated wages. And also, we did hire 3 new firefighters in 2023, and they didn't start as of 1/1 of 2023. So we would also have vacated wages from that.
Should we be
thank you.
deferring this to a closed session if we're going to be getting into details about steps and wages?
I'll refer to Amanda Jackson for that.
I mean, I think at this point, you're just. I mean, the PFC, this is a very hypothetical discussion because we don't get to pick the interim. That is actually the PFC's job. And so we're really just saying, are we, as the city, agreeable to pay increased wages for their pick? And so, I don't know that we need to go into closed session for that.
So what the council really would be saying is we would approve an interim up to the pay range of grade, is it 22? Grade 20? I'm not sure what grade, whatever the
Yeah.
grade and step it is.
Yes.
16. Okay, Alder Wolf?
So quick question. So my first question is, can this wait a week? I just recently, someone said, oh, reorg is usually a really quick night. I'm like, don't jinx us because it seems like invariably there's something comes up we have to put on it. I guess my concern is, we're talking about our current assistant. Then of course, I mean, to me, I want to go back to what people were talking about. My opinion is regardless of the department, someone needs to be in charge. So, and staff needs to know who they report to. Every department, someone needs to be in charge. But if we're looking at the current assistant chief, and certainly it makes sense to me that they should be up at that next step. But if we appoint someone else, why are we looking at automatically putting them at that second step when?
I think that's why Mayor Smith said it would be up to.
Oh, up to. Okay. I'm sorry. I missed
We don't
that
know
part.
who it would, we're
Right.
just theorizing. If
Right.
it was this person,
Right.
we would need to do what we described.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Are you done with your thought?
I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you.
Alder not, and then we're gonna go to the other side.
I'm totally comfortable with compensating anyone who would assume additional roles and duties with additional compensation monetarily for that. I mean, that's only just, so, yeah.
What is the step, the grade and the step that we would need to approve up to if the council wanted to do that? Grade,
Grade 16. Is it currently it's budgeted up to step 4? Not to say that that would have to go that far, but again, that's currently what it's budgeted at.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the interim fire chief to commence after the existing fire chief has completed his service at a grade up to 16. Do we need more detail?
do you need the step? What step does it need to be?
Or
Step 3.
Currently, the position is budgeted, it's grade 16, step 4.
step what?
Step 4 is the budgeted wage step between
But we
step
wouldn't
1 and
need to
4.
go. I thought the question was though, we would only need to go to step 2. That's what Sabrina's saying.
For interim, I think, yeah.
I mean, that would be taking it up one.
We don't want to give, like, here's more responsibility. Now you're going to get paid less. I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Right. Council's decision.
All right, so for clarity, we're trying to get to step 4 or step 2.
I'm just giving the parameters of what it's currently budgeted at.
If we increase the position for a hypothetical existing assistant chief salary where they were not being punished for taking on additional responsibilities, what step would that need to go to?
Sabrina has her hand up.
It would have to be at a step 2. Grade 16, step 2. But Amy is correct in that it is budgeted up to a step 4.
So the dilemma is, do we want to go higher than step 2?
Correct.
Would we?
Okay,
I'll propose a compromise here. Why don't we budget it, we'll allow up to step 3 and then we can determine the amount later if it gives us some flexibility if we need to.
I'll second that with the understanding that how you're defining Chief Goody's end of service is his last day of decision-making authority.
The actual work, not pay,
what,
yes.
what is that date, Amy?
Second.
May 2nd.
May 2nd. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve the hiring of an interim to begin on May 2nd at a wage maximum of grade 16, step 2 or step 3.
Step 3 is what the motion.
Two-step.
Up to step 3. Okay. Last chance for discussion. Alder Wolf.
If I may ask, what is the range of step 2 and what's the range of step 3 in that grade 16?
Step 2 is at 97,000 and step 3 is at 99.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we haven't heard from Leanne.
I really don't have anything to add. I mean, I'm just wanting to make sure that this is hypothetical because it's really not our decision. You
It-
know, I mean, the amount we pay them is our decision, but who gets it is not our decision. So I just wanted to make sure that we keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alder Jurassic.
Amy, is this going to cause any type of domino where whoever replaces him, you gotta fill that spot also? And on down the
No,
line?
I don't believe so. I mean, again, this has been sort of the standard practice from what I understand with the city is making sure that there is that individual that takes on that fire chief role or that had lead role. And beyond that, then obviously the department would be running short, but again, that leadership would be there and that decision maker
So
available.
the assistant fire chief would come from rank then and that'd be it?
No, again, during the interim, the individual that's chosen as chief, from within the department, and then again, there'd be one staff person short until the filling of the full-time fire chief is had.
Okay, any final comments? Everyone's good? Do I need to say the motion again, or do we got it? Think we got it? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 11, Administrative Committee, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 11A, request for waiver to City Ordinance 7.04.11.d.2. Limitation on number of dogs and cats for, we'll take them separately. Number 1, Ryan and Stacy Morris, 618 Gale Avenue, Onalaska. Mr. Ryan Morris spoke earlier under public input. It was the recommendation at Administrative Committee last Wednesday. It was a unanimous vote, 3-0, to forward this to council tonight without a recommendation. But I will move that I will make a motion that we discuss.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Jurassic to have a discussion.
So I'll kick it off, and then if Amanda and or Katie want to give any input, and if I would also like council to consider if there's anything that Mr. Morris would like to add. He may have one piece of information depending upon whatever we discussed that he may want to add later. But there was a concern that there were 2 letters that were received from an opposing neighbor, 2 letters, but it was the one single neighbor. And that gave us pause because this is something new that we're doing this new, sending out the letters to abutting neighbors. And this is the first time now that we've been doing this, the last 4 or 5 times that we actually got a complaint. So we're kind of in unprecedented waters. So we thought as a committee, it was best to forward it to tonight. So if Katie and or Amanda want to weigh in, because I'm not really sure what we're going to do.
Okay, who wants to go first?
I can go. And so you have before you a request for the waiver on the limitation on number of dogs and cats. We did have a very strong neighborhood complaint related to that with specific concerns related to noise issues and barking for the 4 dogs, as well as some yard waste. I think you have sort of, 3 options here. You can choose to give them the exemption. You can choose to deny them the exemption. Or I think a middle ground could be that we don't have to give an indefinite exemption. We could choose to give them a trial period of 1 year and have them reapply after 1 year and resend the neighbor letters and see if, they can spend the next year being good stewards of their neighbors and see how that goes.
Okay, thank you. Katie, did you want to add anything to that? Okay, are there any other counselors that would like to comment?
And if Your Honor, if one thing, could we have Mr. Morris come up and just make a statement, because it kind of piggybacks what Amanda just said, that it might help clear things up a little bit. It might make it.
Mr. Morris, please approach.
It might make it clear. I don't know.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, and I apologize to everybody for wasting your time with this, especially with all those other very much more important issues that you guys were discussing. So I'm sorry about that. But I spoke to Diana earlier, and she had I told her that we were actually in the process of looking for a home in Arizona. So hopefully this won't be an issue for very much longer. So like, we're planning on moving this summer. I think if like what you had suggested, if we're able to do a year trial period, then we'll be out of everybody's hair by the time that period's up. So hopefully everybody would be willing to consider that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take some other comments. We'll go with Alder Stevens.
So if I guess I feel that when the history that we've had is with the ordinances, generally speaking, as long as the owners got along, like it was not a public nuisance, we would tend to grant the waiver, and that's kind of been the practice. In the event that there was a problem, that's as Alder Wolf stated, that's never really come up, but I think if we grant a waiver indefinitely, that causes a big issue. Why do we have the ordinance here in the first place if we are not going to enforce it? So on the other hand, I mean, what if this is the case where you just have some neighbors don't get along and government is being weaponized and you're going to make you get rid of Fluffy. I mean, I don't like being part of that, but we don't have the resources, and we're not going to have Katie's department kind of go try to, figure that out. So I think we need to figure out what our long-term plan is. I think if this could be, if this problem could resolve itself, I would actually say that we enforce the waiver, but vacate enforcement of it for like up to 6 months. It gives them time, but we are setting the precedent that we are going to stand and enforce our ordinances.
Thank you. Alder Stokes.
I was just wondering, either Katie or Amanda, did we send letters to, how many neighbors did we send letters to? Do you know?
I think Katie's checking right now.
6. And the only one we got back was that one. Okay. I personally would like to choose the 1 year option for them, not to do it. And then as with all the new information that came out, if you move to Arizona, then that's taken care of. But I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to know, is this just, as you said, two neighbors that just don't get along? Or is this actually something else? So, I mean, I would think if it was a really big problem, that you would have gotten more responses back.
Sure. Wait till you get to the microphone.
Just
That's
wanted
okay.
to throw one more thing in there. This is the first I've ever heard of an issue from that neighbor whatsoever. That we were completely caught by surprise by getting that email. We've spoke with this neighbor. She's invited us into her home, showed us termite damage that she had on her walls and said, hey, look out for this. Like, we have never gotten any feedback from her. So like, especially now hearing this from her, like, yeah, we will do everything in our power to try to keep it, keep the dogs barking down, which I already do anyways. I work from home. So that's like my number one priority. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there. Like, now that I'm aware of the issue, yeah, if I can just like get some time to resolve it. And then, like I said, we're trying to move, so shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Alder not?
Yeah, I apologize. I got 4 points. All of them are fairly short. So first off, I know that in the past I've stated that I personally oppose number limits for pets anyway. I just think we should be enforcing the law, which already addresses everything from nuisance animals to animal cruelty to things of that nature. But that said, we do have this in our ordinance. And there's, I've also stated in the past that if we're going to be making exceptions to ordinances, that they really need to be defined and limited. And the past couple of exceptions we've made for this were absolutely defined and limited with special circumstances. If we don't do that, then I would argue we're risking vacating the ordinance by establishing a general precedence. That's the risk we're taking if we just do general exceptions. So I'm at first, glance at this, I'm very opposed to making an exception because this is more of a general exception. And I think we're at danger with that. So number 3, though, is I like the proposal I heard from Dan that, vacating 6 months, which would become potentially a new precedence for enforcement, but I think a year would be too long. But the reason I'm saying 6 months, it's not only in this particular instance that would be helpful to the family, but also it allows any future owners, if we're going to enforce the ordinance, to give them 6 months to find a suitable home for the pet that they would have to get rid of, as opposed to just putting it into the pound. All right. This last thing is something I'd like to see considered potentially in the future on this too. I'm wondering if the staff might want to take a look at cost versus benefit of, you're going to laugh, but it's a new thing that's our nation coast to coast right now for about 3 or 5 years now, of dog poo DNA testing. It's actually very affordable. Between the kit and the actual test is around $70 or so. And, we could take into effect that, a complainant can ask for it. If the complainant is wrong, the complainant pays for the test. If the complainant is right, then the dog owner not only pays for the test, but also pays a fine. So if, as far as finding dog poo in the yard or in a public space, which is where most of these cities are doing it right now, is they'll actually have people go out. They'll see somebody, somebody's dog did something in a public boulevard, for instance, scoop it up, put it in the test. If they have a suspicion of whose it was, they can get a DNA swab literally out of the dog's mouth like they would from us. And it's about $70 to do that. So I don't know if that's something we want to consider as a city, but it's something we could consider in the future.
Thank you for those comments. Amanda, I have a procedural question. If they make a motion to discuss, do we have to close that motion before getting a new motion? Because we didn't on that previous one. And I feel like
we make a new motion that essentially closes discussion.
Okay. Okay, any other comments or? Oh, yes.
Ideally, we wouldn't be making motions to discuss.
Yeah.
We should be making motions either in favor or in opposition to.
Right, because if we make the motion to do it one way and decide not to, we can just vote it, or you can just vote it down. So let's just try to avoid that going forward. Okay, who's next? Alder Jurassic?
Yeah, the question I have is, are we talking about both these parties or just one of them?
Just one. We're only talking about.
If we get
the
one, what do we
Morris.
do about the other one?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's a different situation.
All right.
Okay,
I'm ready to make a motion.
okay, Alder Wolf, please.
So this is going to be a long motion just based on everything we talked about. And I think I've got it right here, I hope. So I am going to move that we approve item 11A for Ryan and Stacy Morris at 618 Gale Avenue, Onalaska. Their request for a waiver to city ordinance 7.04 limitation on number of dogs and cats. So we're looking to approve the request. It will be vacated by October 15th, 2023. Gives them 6 months. With 2 additional conditions. And those conditions are what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 or 5. That one, if any of the named pets pass away, they will not be replaced until such time as the applicant, and Joanne, I'll give this to you afterwards, so you don't have to write this down.
Diane, move your microphone so it's in front of your mouth.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
On the condition that 2 conditions, if any of the named animals pass away, they will not be replaced until such time as the applicant is below 4 pets. And 2, applicant shall comply with any requests from city planning staff to verify the number of animals living at the house, including but not limited to providing any veterinarian records or inspecting the premises for the limited purpose of verifying the number of animals present and the health, safety, and welfare of the animals. Failure to comply with these 2 conditions will result in the loss of a special exception. That's my motion. And those 2 exceptions and those 2 conditions are what we've done like the last 4 or 5 times. And per administration, that has been the request to continue with those same set of conditions for these types of requests. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Jurassic. Is there discussion? Alder Stevens?
I didn't say that as a motion before, but I'm preferring the language that I used earlier. I think it's important that we set the precedent in a case where the claim is contested. I think we have a solution that hopefully is amenable. It grants some time, but it also says that the city, if we're going to have the ordinance, we're going to stand on the ordinance. Otherwise, we're just kicking this to 6 months from now. So I will be against this.
Okay. Alder Smith?
I support it, but I do think we have to, sit up on this council. We've had a lot of exceptions to this policy. And I really do think we might have to step back and look at it again and see. It just seems like every few months it comes up, and I know our intent was to kind of limit these animals, but it seems like more and more we're getting more. So, and we're sitting here spending an awful lot of time and on these council meetings on this kind of discussion. So I really do think it probably needs to be revisited. I would suggest that it be revisited and see if there's a better solution. But I do like the idea of giving this homeowner an extension to kind of, do it. But we are kicking the can, like you're saying. Now what we're really doing is giving an exception, but we're really still violating the rule that we set. So.
Okay, we'll go with Amanda Jackson and then Alder Knott.
I just want to clarify, Diane, when you say vacate, this essentially is a limited exception and it expires on October.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that at least that's what I was kind of hearing was I heard some consensus that a limited, because I didn't hear people were okay with a whole year, but especially, I mean, if Mr. Morris is talking about this, I talked to him in the audience before the meeting tonight, and he thought, the summer, and I said, give me a month. And he said, well, probably by August, but, and obviously plans change, circumstances change, life gets in the way. So that's why I put October 15th.
Okay, Alder Knott, and then we'll see if we can wrap it up.
So at risk of quibbling here, words do matter. Even though the end result would be exactly the same between what Dan is saying and what has been made a motion of by Diane, I'm in line with Dan on this one. I think it's important that we deny the request, but vacate enforcement for 6 months as opposed to approving the request for 6 months. Again, we're establishing potentially a general precedent because there's really no special circumstances coming into play on here.
Okay, Amanda, did you want to weigh in on that? The pros and cons of approving it with the extra wording or denying it with the extra wording. I mean, as Stephen said, like we're doing it will affect the homeowner in the same way, but we do want to be forward thinking for future examples.
I think it probably makes more sense to deny it and vacate enforcement for 6 months on the offhand chance that they have a change of plans or something happens. Like we have a clear understanding of what happens in October, that it expires on, like our enforcement procedures expire on this date and we will enforce it on this date.
With
I apologize. I misunderstood Alder Stevens. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so do you want to just withdraw your?
I will
motion?
withdraw
That
my
would probably be
motion.
the
Yes.
cleanest Way,
Yes.
and then the second was made by Alder
I'll withdraw.
Jurassic. Okay, and so then you want to go ahead and restate the motion?
I will let Alder Stevens do that, so I don't mess it up a second time.
I will make a motion that we
I-
deny the request for waiver to Ryan and Stacy Morris at 618 Gale Avenue. And further, we will vacate enforcement of said action until October 15th is what we said,
I just picked 6 months and kind of rounded up a few.
and until October 15th, and that is my motion.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens. It's been seconded by Alder Wolf. Let me ask first our city attorney and also interim city administrator, if that meets with what you think is a good choice of words.
I think that's fine.
Okay, any other discussion?
If we could, I think Mr. Morris, it'd be good if he could be recognized one more time, because I don't know what questions he has before he leaves tonight.
So sorry,
Okay,
just
go
one more
ahead.
question. What happens after the 6 months? They said vacate, like
You need to get rid of one of the pets
get rid of one of the pets.
by
Okay,
that date.
By that date.
Or move.
So-
Or move, right.
Well,
Okay.
we'd rather have
I
you.
just wanted to make sure that I wanted to make sure that getting rid of one of the pets was an option and
Yes.
just vacating the property.
Yes, I mean, but
Thank you.
you know, who knows what, you could get rid of it or anything could happen.
Right. Anything can happen. I got you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, the motion is to deny, but it will not be enforced until October 15th of 2023. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Oh, looky, we have
Back
another
to
one.
you. Well, this one is less complicated.
Oh, I
Thank
don't
you,
know.
sir. Have a nice
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, Ryan.
And item 11.2, Albert and Jamie Vitney, 518 L Hauser Road on Alaska. This item was approved at Administrative Committee last Wednesday by a 2-to-1 vote, but as chair, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that because you said that we're not going to have a discussion. I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. But this was approved at administrative, but I'm not going to make a motion at this time.
Yeah, so this was approved with a 2-to-1 vote, as Diane mentioned. It is a little different for a couple of reasons, which I believe is why it is on the non-consent tonight. So one of the things that we have had for many of these exemptions over the past several months is sort of some unique situation. Often it's a very elderly animal that is near the end of its life, and they have sort of replaced it already. This one has a request for 5 relatively young animals. All of them are 4 years or less in age. And so we would also be looking at a situation where, you know, there's not likely going to be a change in the number of animals they have for several years. Additionally, all of our other requests have involved animals that are spayed and neutered. This does involve an animal that is not fixed. And so that's a little bit different. From an administrative standpoint, I would echo 2 things. One, despite the requests that we have coming in, it still amounts to significantly less than 1% of our population. We are actually more generous than Holman in the number of animals we allow and the combination thereof, and we are the same as La Crosse. And so we are not unique. I don't know if this is something that other communities are seeing more requests of or not. But also I do think that Stephen is right in the sense that we are probably walking a little bit of a line in that if we're going to have this, we probably need to enforce it. And so, you know, as easy as it is to grant everybody a waiver, if that is what the practice is going to be, then we as staff should look at other options. Or as a council, we should consider denying some of these.
Okay, Alder Not,
I'll make a motion that we deny the request, but vacate enforcement for 6 months in order to allow the family to hopefully find a home for one of their pets.
I'll second it.
thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Tom Smith. Is there any discussion? Alder Not?
I'll clarify it with the 15th instead of the 11th. We'll go with the same date as the last, as
Okay.
the last one.
Okay, clarify that. We'll just make that a correction. Okay, discussion. Alder Wolf.
I am going to support this motion on the floor. I know that we used to have additional animals allowed in years past, and I thought staff did a great job about looking at the budding municipalities. What is the norm? And it seems like a lot of times we are very generous in many ways. And, you know, I think I appreciate the fact that the city of Onalaska, and I don't find that typically we land on the penal side. And I appreciate that. I think our constituents appreciate, our taxpayers appreciate that also. But there's got to be some modicum of enforcement and ordinances and people being able to take care of it. You know, but some people can go ahead and take care of 10 pets and some people can't even take care of one. So, and everything in between. And as someone who has had a lot of difficulty in second district with animals and feces and odors, but we just resolved one issue after about 20 years in this past month. I certainly don't want to encourage any more issues. So I will be supporting this evening. I think this might end up being a trend that we may start going down, because I don't like to be penal, but we just have to, I think, draw a line somewhere. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Anyone on this side? Alder Stevens?
I guess I'm a little bit up in the air. I mean, in the past, we've always approved these, and the idea was we were trying to limit public nuisances. So if you were the house that was causing a problem with all your neighbors, this gave our enforcement department a means to address that issue. And if the neighbors aren't complaining, you know, as Alder Wolf said, I mean, some people could have 10 animals and they take very good care of them. And then there's that guy that shouldn't even have, you know, like a goldfish. So I'm a little concerned if people are taking care of their animals. I think we should limit, but I totally understand the point. Like, we're going to have an ordinance. We really ought to enforce it. So my concern is for all the ones that we've approved in the past, like, this is different because there's one that's not spayed or neutered and they're younger. I mean, I'm just saying we're going to force this family to rehome, and we don't know that they're going to be moving in the next 6 months. And that's kind of not a great optic for, I think we have to have a really solid reason other than this is the ordinance. If there's no, this is a public nuisance, the neighbors don't mind. Yeah, I'm up in the air. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote, so I'd like to hear other discussion.
Okay, Alder Amanda, sorry, I didn't.
I mean, I would just counter that is how we enforce all of our ordinances. I mean, I could, as a neighbor, not care that my person that lives next to me has a significant amount of exterior junk, but the person on the other side of them, you know, may significantly not like that. And so we can't have an enforcement that is based purely on neighborhood, you know, preference and neighborhood preference, or we're going to lose uniformity across the city. I mean, it sucks. I'll acknowledge that it's not great, but at some point we have to pick a number and we have to enforce that number. And so right now that number is 4.
Thank you for that. Okay, Alder Stokes, and then we'll go to Alder Jurassic.
In this particular instance, I'm leaning towards agreeing that we should not let this happen. But I think we need to revisit this. As Alder Smith said, I think we need to have a discussion on, are we where we want to be? And if we are where we want to be, then that's good. Then I think we need to enforce it unless there are some extenuating circumstances as there have been in the past. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick final thought, if I could.
Can Alder Jurassic have a turn first?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I'm supporting of it. What I'd like to see though is only a 3-month instead of 6 months. 3 months is more than enough time to get rid of a dog or a pet. Give them 6 months to get rid of them. It's just gonna make it a lot harder and harder for them to get rid of that animal.
Okay, we have not, we'll come back to you, but we haven't heard from Alder Smith yet at all on this topic. So let him have his first chance and then we'll have final remarks after that.
I support it. I mean, like I said before, I think we gotta enforce what we create as ordinances. There's always gonna be exceptions, and we know that. We've been through lots of exceptions, but why have an ordinance if we're gonna continually override it? So I like the idea of a 6-month kind of, okay, we're gonna keep with the ordinance, but you have 6 months to resolve it.
Yeah.
But we keep the ordinance in place. Otherwise, why even bother the ordinance? And if we don't do that, then we should probably reconsider whether the ordinance is going to be effective or we keep doing exceptions to it. So, but I support this motion.
Okay, thank you for that, Alder Smith. Now we'll do final remarks. Alder Stevens wanted to go first.
Sure. So it's been stated several times tonight that requests for waiver exemptions have come up a lot more. And it seems like not only are we as council spending a lot more time on this, but our city administrator / attorney is spending time, and we got plan spending time on this. I think we should revisit the fee schedule. If we do grant an exception, we can charge a fee for that, and we probably should. And that fee could be maybe deterrent. Like, you want to have 5, you have to get approved by council, and it's another $100 or something like that. So I think we need to look at this differently, and that might be an approach.
Okay, any other last comments? Alder Wolf and then Alder Knott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I know I've been thinking about the fee angle for the last couple of months, and recently talked with both Amanda and I'm blanking. Katie, I'm sorry, I have to look at your face. I can't see you. And Katie about this. And I believe it is for a discussion for this fall when it comes to budget. To me, it seems to make sense if we're charging, was it $75 for the chicken ordinance application or the chicken application? Why not also for or something similar for the exception for the dogs and cats? So, and I just want to remind everyone under ordinance 7.04.11, limitation on number of dogs and cats. Number 1, the purpose is the keeping of a large number of dogs and or cats within the city for a considerable period of time detracts from, and in many instances is detrimental to, healthful and comfortable life in such areas. The keeping of a large number of dogs and or cats is therefore declared a public nuisance. And that is why I support the motion on the floor tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're just doing last remarks now, so you'll have to wait. Alder Smith, did you want to make a last remark? And then I don't think Leanne did. Okay, Amanda wants to say something?
Well, I was just going to answer, I guess, the question related to a fee. We could do that when we do the fee schedule in the fall, or we could do that at any time. If that's the will of the council, they can direct staff to bring back a proposed amendment to the fee schedule. I do think that while the fee needs to be reasonable, so we can't just decide to have a $500 fee in order to have a dog. We are spending a significant amount of staff time on these. We are also mailing letters. We are paying for postage. We are drafting letters to the neighbors. And right now we are not being compensated for any of that.
Okay, I believe Alder Knott has a question.
Oh, no, it's final comments. So, yeah, the fees is where I was going to go to. We have to show actual cost. So I think I'm comfortable we can do that. But I did want to real briefly see, my understanding of the previous approvals had nothing to do with whether or not they were nuisance animals. They were actually very defined and specific examples. Example, one where the lady, one of the our citizens had a couple of pets of their own, but they also wanted to help out by foster animals. So it was a temporary, it'll be up, it'll be below, it'll be up, it'll be below, but it was for a specific reason of trying to foster for other, finding homes. The other one was a service member and his family who had served 2 decades overseas and had, that additional pet, but of which one of those was an actual service animal. So it was very defined. It had, in my mind, it had nothing to do with making a decision whether or not these animals were going to be a nuisance. It had to be where they had defined specific exception that didn't create a general exception overall. And I think that we've done that on all these approvals, at least that I voted on. I don't recall any others. But again, I don't like this ordinance very clearly. I've said that. And with over the next 6 months, if this motion passes, if we want to revisit the ordinance, I'm very open to that.
Okay, thank you. Alder Stokes, you're the only one left.
The only part of the last comments is I'm just trying to think of a way that we can, because the gentleman said he didn't know that he wasn't in compliance until he came to get his licenses. Are people supposed to come in when they get here and get licenses, or I don't know exactly what the, what is the procedure? I mean, do we have anything in place that says you need to license your animals as soon as you get here?
Go ahead, Joanne.
We do have a section on our website regarding licensing, and it does lay out that after moving here, if your animal is older than 5 months, it needs to be licensed, and within 30 days of moving here, you need to get licensed.
Okay, all right. So in some cases, just people just aren't going to the website to check that out, or.
Okay, Sabrina Steger.
Right. And then the other thing, the way we would get notified down in our office is if you lived in the city of Onalaska and you went and got a rabies shot or any vaccinations for that dog, that information would get notified to the city that there's another pet with that address.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion that we have on the floor is to deny the request from the Whitney's, but not to enforce it for 6 months. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 12, Board of Public Works and Utilities, Alder Knott.
First is 2023 pavement project bid. This did appear before the Board of Public Works last week, but it did not have the bid numbers with it. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Jared.
Thank you. Tonight I have panned out the 2023 pavement project bid opening, bid tabulation. We did only have one contractor that bid the project, Matthew Construction, which is our typical for asphalt paving projects. We did have a base bid with alternates. Staff is recommending that we award to Matthew Construction for the base bid plus alternates 3 and 4 for a total of $406,807. Couple things I'd like to point out. We did have 3 different items that this budget was budgeted for in the capital improvements budget. So we did have 409,000 budgeted. So we are under what we had budgeted within the capital improvements budget. But we are seeing paving prices increasing as the projects are bid. Just to give you an idea, back in 2020, we purchase asphalt when they do these projects by the ton. So we pay by the tonnage that's put down. 2020, it was $90 a ton. 2021, it was $92 a ton. 2022 is $105 a ton. This bid has $116 a ton. So since the 2020 bid, we've went up 29% in our asphalt cost. So what you're going to see in our capital improvements program is that means that if you paved a mile of street, you're only going to pave 3/4 of a mile of street now. So we're getting less volume for what we have done in the past. So we do have the money budgeted. We came in under what we had. We had to go into our contingency for that, but I feel very comfortable that we will be under the amount that we have budgeted.
Okay, thank you, Alder Knott.
I was just going to make a motion that we approve the 2023 pavement project bid for 406,000, was it 807?
Correct.
Okay, for $6,807.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Alder Wolf to approve. And Alder Wolf, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Jared, if I heard you right, we're approving the base bid plus alternate 3 and 4, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's part of Alder Knott's motion, I would assume. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to throw that in there. And so what happens to alternate 1 and 2? We're not, so obviously we're not going to do that this year then, at least at this point in time.
Unless you want to spend more money.
I don't know. But right now, that's a situation.
Correct. Our original, when we actually did the project in the capital improvements program, we were trying to do 10th Court and Valor Court. But with the prices going up and everything, we just could not fit it in. Also with the crack filling, the polyfiber installation, We only bid out half of what we purchased. With the cost of that, trying to stay within the budget, and we want to have options once the budget numbers came in case for some reason the bid came in different than what we thought it would.
Is, if I, as a follow-up question, is bid alternate one for 10th Court and Valor Court, what is their condition? I mean, are we gonna be, we're gonna be okay if we go another year or two?
Yeah, we'll be fine with not performing bid alternate number one.
Okay.
It's more of a long-term capital improvements discussion. Once we get into the 2024 capital improvements budget, our pavement project has not been keeping up with what we have for street mileage. So that'll be a discussion come September, October of this year.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the 2023 pavement project to Matthew with bid alternates 3 and 4. The total is $406,807. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Alder Knott.
Next item is the 2023 miscellaneous concrete project bid. Similar circumstances did appear before the board last week, but the bids are now listed before you. I'll turn it back over to Jared.
Thank you. Thank you. We did have 2 bidders today. We did open bids for the 2023 miscellaneous concrete project. As you can see, we had Fowler and Hammer and Braun Building Center produce bids. We have not had Braun Building Center do work for us on a project for a number of years, but they are a local contractor that does work with different entities, government entities. We did approve their bidders proof of responsibility because we felt they could do the work. We did have a variety of projects included within this bid, including miscellaneous concrete, our concrete replacement zone. We had some stormwater work, and we also had some parks work for a total budget amount of $220,000. We did have Braun Building Center for $193,005, and staff is recommending we approve that bid with Braun Building Center for the amount listed.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve Braun Building to conduct the 2023 miscellaneous concrete project to the amount of $193,005.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Leanne Stokes to approve the miscellaneous concrete project bid as described. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Item 13 is the Plan Commission. Item A, Resolution 18-2023. This is a final resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of Lauderdale Place cul-de-sac located west and south of 3243, 1109, and 1107 Lauderdale Place, City of Onalaska, La Crosse, Wisconsin. This is the item that was on the public hearing at the beginning of the council where we heard no comment. And I'll turn this item over to the council.
Motion to approve resolution 18-2023.
Second.
Motion by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Knott. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Item 14, Alderperson Stokes. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. This is just what I call behind the scenes report, kind of like a ride along, but you can't ride along in the Albee Center. And it was regarding the Cabin Fever Frenzy event. I was able to go both nights. And Friday night, I was just an observer. Saturday, when I got there and I asked if I could do this and just become more involved in what goes on. What does it take to put on an event like this, especially when you have a cornhole tournament already in your bigger area? So I talked to Justin quite a bit and watched when the bands were warming up, and then everything was starting to fill up. And I just have to commend Park and Rec and Dan and Justin for the job that they do out there. They had a lot of people that were volunteering There were a lot of staff that were there and they were helping. I mean, this event could not have happened without all of those, things happening. And Justin, in my mind, was constantly going from here to here to here to here to here to here. I mean, he looked like a little ping pong sometimes, trying to keep up with everything. And he does a super good job of keeping the people that are performing, because people, when they come, they want, they're supposed to start at X time, they want him to start at X time. And Justin is very conscious of that. So I just wanted to commend Park and Rec and Dan and Justin for the job that they do. And this is just, they do this every weekend. I mean, every weekend they seem to have everything full. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you for that. We appreciate it. We appreciate you guys too, doing a great job up at the Omni Center. Item 15, Alderperson Smith.
Promise to keep it short. I just want to thank everyone for the 4 years I've been on the council. I really enjoyed it. It's been a great learning experience. I've had 20 years of community service, Western Technical College Board, on Alaska School Board, and 4 years on this board and the district council. And it's been a great learning experience. Some of the observations, first of all, I'd like to thank the District 1 voters for voting me in for the last 2 terms. And I'd like to thank the council. I've enjoyed working with all of you and previous council members. It's been a great experience. And I've also, a couple observations is the dedication of the employees of this place are just astronomical. I've seen the dedication, the hard work that goes on behind the scenes that sometimes as a citizen you don't see. All the long hours and all the things that people do behind the scenes when you're here versus outside, you don't see that. And having seen both sides, I'm just very impressed and like to thank all of you and the staff for all the work that they do. I also having been on boards, I've worked on a lot of different boards, a lot of committees, but also the council on their frugalness for the taxpayers and benefits of keeping taxes low. As a taxpayer myself for many years here, 35 years been in Alaska, and just all the things that we do to keep our budgets, very budget oriented, very focused, very frugal. I have to say that this is one of the most frugal councils I've ever been, but that's good. That's from the taxpayer perspective. It has its pluses, minuses at times, very challenging budget opportunities, and the future will probably be even worse challenges. But I think it does say that we really do try hard to keep things under control the best we can. So I think that's a compliment to the city and to that. And I'd like to end by thanking Diane Wolf, because Diane talked to me 25 years ago. Many times about running for council. And I said, I travel too much. I've been too busy. I'm raising kids. I was on the school board and it was just too much. I said, maybe someday I'll do that. And she kept bugging me every time I saw her. And so finally I said, okay, kids grew up, school board was done. And I said, okay, maybe I'll run. So I did. So I also like to thank you, Diane, because she kind of got me into, how Diane, she's persistent. And so I do thank her though, because it's been a great experience. So again, thank you to everybody I've enjoyed working with you, and you'll still see me around. I'll be here for, different things when I can. So again, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Your Honor.
Okay, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. So thank you, Tom. I know, I remember the first time I called you, and then every 3 or 4 years I call him again, just, and not for any reason, any particular reason, like maybe I didn't like who was running first district. I just knew that whenever I watched Tom at the school board in action, he was just always the calming influence. And if you spend any time around me, I need that calming influence from time to time. And I knew that he would provide that for this council, regardless of whoever was on this council. And so I know I've called you like 5 or 6 times, and then you always said, then you came through, you always said, well, maybe when I retire. And then when you said yes, I think I was stunned, and then you retired. And I think you retired the same month that you ended up coming.
Yeah, a month
that
before,
you were
yeah.
sworn in. But I want to thank Tom for his service also. I know I have belonged to more than half of my life. I have belonged to some type of a band. whether it's a concert band, marching band, Dixieland band, community band. Why do I bring that up? Because when you are in band, you have what we call a seatmate. In the clarinet section, depending upon where you sit, typically you have someone on your left and your right. So, but we don't get to pick seatmates. It's kind of like, it's based on either when you showed up or who favors who, or maybe your skill level, and every band is different. And at council, we don't get to pick our seatmates either. But I want to thank you for being my seatmate for the last 4 years. It's been fun, and you brought some levity at times to meetings, which I always appreciate, and also appreciate your past service being on technology. So thank you for your service, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Okay.
And all the best to you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. All right, Alder Stokes.
Just wanted to thank you for being my partner in District 1 and kind of, letting me know what was going on, especially with the redistricting and things like that. And everything about you is very calming, and that's
That's what they tell me.
that's good. That's
Tell that to my wife.
yeah. No, and it's been fun learning, meeting you and being part of District 1 with you. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Amanda. Item 16, interim city administrator report.
Yeah, so I just passed out a short update on a few city projects that we have. So these are just sort of some ongoing projects that we have perhaps approved in 2022 or early 2023. And because of the work being done, we don't often hear about them. And so I just wanted to highlight kind of where they stand. So the community project has, for the community center, has officially kicked off. We are waiting for some design concepts with estimated budget numbers, at which point we'll be bringing those back to Parks, Rec, and Library Board, as well as council, to sort of decide on the budget and scope of that project. Our website redesign is out for RFP right now. It will close May 12th. You'll be seeing that hopefully on the June council agenda. Sort of something internal that came up recently is this idea of perhaps reconfiguring how we do email addresses. So we're going to be discussing the possibility of standardizing email addresses for department heads, elected officials, and certain other positions that make sense to allow better continuity. So for example, it would be Kim would have her K-Smith email, ksmith@onalaskawi.gov, but for public purposes, we would give out the email address mayor@onalaskawi.gov, and then that would automatically be routed to Kim. District alder persons, we would have perhaps one email per district, so District 1 alders. And so if somebody wanted to get in touch with their District 1 alders, it would be one email that would be routed to those two District 1 alders. Same with 2nd district, 3rd district. We could have individual district alders emails if that is a preference. And so we are looking for a little bit of feedback tonight. But the idea is then, for example, when you have somebody vacate a position, we're able to just pick up that email trail, and it's a lot easier for constituents to know who to contact on council. They just know that they emailed District 1 alder. They don't have to figure out who that person is, or if they're looking at perhaps old print materials that have somebody else's information on them. It's a lot easier. So we would have that kind of across the department heads, elected officials, and then a few other positions where it might make sense. One of them, for example, would be the inspection. The inspector might make sense to have him just have an inspector at onalaskawi.gov, and possibly a few other positions. So if you have any feedback on that, I'm going to just circle through the last two things really quickly, and then we'll come back to that. Sunny the Sunfish, the improvements to that are underway. So Farler and Hammer began that project yesterday. We think it's going to probably take a few weeks to complete. Also, city staff is working with Hilltopper Rotary on a planting day. So once that project is done, they're going to get out there and they're going to refresh some of the plantings around Sunny. So that should clean him up nicely. Lastly, we got an award, a second award for the Green Coulee Roundabout. It was voted to be the 2023 Project of the Year for small cities, rural communities for the transportation category from APWA Wisconsin chapter. So congrats to Jared, Kevin, and staff on that.
Good job.
Very cool.
Okay, Alder Knott.
Yeah, you said you wanted some feedback. So Yeah, I actually think there's some goodness in keeping individual emails for alders as well. And a simple way to do that might be where you'd have, for instance, your example here was District 1 alders. You could have District 1 alder.e and .o for even year, odd year for election. It's very simple and it would be the same for everybody then still. So just
Yeah, there's a lot of ways we can do it. Some municipalities simply number them, like district, it could be alder number 1, alder number 2, alder, I mean, we could just have 1 through 6. We could have, District 1 and 1A. However, if there's a strong preference, but that's kind of the two options.
Okay, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Regarding item 4, Sunny the Sunfish, if it would, I'm assuming that there's current pictures. I would just suggest possibly make a suggestion if we could see like before and after pictures. Especially since it's been it's a really nice service project. And regarding item 3, the email configuration, Amanda spoke with me briefly about this a little bit before council tonight. One reason why I think there's many reasons why I think it's a good idea to more standardize it. I know like with some organizations, like if you have a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, treasurer, regardless of who it is, it's always treasurer at whatever, secretary at whatever. There's so many times when you sometimes get people's long names and they're misspelled. And if you have a standardization, it makes it so easy. I can't tell you how many times my years on council where someone said, because they throw an O in my name. And then I get blamed for, well, you didn't answer my email. It's like, well, I didn't get it. So, and then when when they realize that we have to double back and, apologies, whatever. So I think for the spelling, it would just make it easier. I think the standardization would be easier. I hear what Alder not saying, but the other thing is too, I know when it comes to our common council rules and for themselves and the subcommittees, we had changed that in the last couple of years where, say, for example, Alder Stevens and I share second district. If I get an email from a constituent or he does, we are supposed to communicate that, so that would really lend that self to that. Plus, if there is anyone who maybe gets contact all the time, another one doesn't, it would be, I think, share the load more. And then plus, I think it would just be good communication overall. So I myself would be very much in support for both alders getting the same email. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the report? Did you have anything left to say, Amanda, on that? Anyone? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking for emails from constituents coming in, I think having a shared email is a good portal, and it should go then to both alders from that district. But I think we need to maintain our own emails, otherwise
You would.
Okay,
This
so-
would essentially be like an auto forward. So it would route those emails to
yeah,
you.
if it's a router, then it's fine.
Yeah.
But you don't want to share a login with somebody else, so that
No,
who's responding, and
No.
so it should be clear when we respond, who's
Right.
who's so that the people know who that they're conversing with.
Okay, anything else?
I just want to say thank you. I love your updates. Really appreciate the communication.
Communication is very good.
Yes.
Okay, item 17, closed session. To consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Specifically, the city of Onalaska versus James, Michael, and Christina Thompson. And also to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the city administrator hiring. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and or continue on with the printed agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move that we go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion by Alder Stevens. It's been seconded by Alder Wolf to go into closed session. Voting will be by roll call. Joanne Marcon, please.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Leanne Stokes,
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. We are in closed session. The time is 8:45 PM. We'll just take a moment to stretch our legs and then we'll get back to business. Thank you, everyone.